Welcome to lesson 53 of course 2. In this lesson we're going to talk about ratio word problems. We're going to use ratio boxes to organize the data in a ratio word problem, and we're going to use proportions to solve those word problems. Remember proportions, that's our cross multiplying. Do you remember that? That's what we're going to use when we do these. So there is no new vocabulary, so let's get started. In this lesson we're going to use proportions to solve word problems. So consider this word problem. If you have a ratio of parrots to macaws at a bird sanctuary of 3 parrots to every 5 macaws, if there are 45 parrots, how many macaws were there? Well, in this problem there are two kinds of numbers, ratio numbers and actual count numbers. These are the ratio numbers and this is the actual count. The number 45 being the actual count of parrots. So we'll arrange these numbers in 2 columns and in 2 rows so that we can use what we learned about proportions to solve this. We're going to use these ratio boxes to figure out what m is. So the way we do that is that we're going to cross multiply, and we learned that when we talked about proportions a few lessons back. In this case here we're going to take 5 times 45, and that's going to equal 225, and then 3m equals 225. To get m by itself we have to divide by 3, so this becomes 1, so it leaves us just with the m, and we have to keep both sides balanced, so we divide the other side by 3 and we come up with 75. So we know that the number of macaws is equal to 75, and that's how we do use proportions to solve these ratios. So let's do it. Let's do a couple of them. This is a really short lesson. In an auditorium, the ratio of boys to girls was 5 to 4. If there were 200 girls in the auditorium, how many boys were there? See if you can do this on your own. Let me show you how to do it, but pause it and see if you can do it if you already think you know how. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my boys and my girls. And my ratio of boys to girls is for every 5 boys, there are 4 girls. That's my ratio. Okay, now my actual numbers, forgive my handwriting, is that there's 200 girls. So now how do I solve it? Well, I use proportions. I cross multiply. So I've got 5 times 200 equals 1,000, and I got 4 times, let's say, x. So I got 4x equals 1,000. I have to divide by 4 again because I want to get x all by itself, because that creates a 1x, which is x. So x equals 250. So I've got 250 boys. And does that make sense? Yeah, it does. Because if there's 5 boys for every 4, then you know that this number over here has got to be larger than this number here, because the 5 is bigger than the 4. So 250 is a reasonable answer. Let's see if it's right. There we go. Very nice. 250 boys. Not too hard. It's really review from proportions. You just have to set it up yourself. Okay, so see if you can do this one. The ratio of sparrows to blue jays at the sanctuary is 5 to 3. So you've got ratio, and then you have actual. Let's fill it in. Let's fill in our boxes. All right. So sparrows and blue jays, and then you just look at sparrows comes first, so you know that's 5. Blue jays is listed second, so you know that's 3. And the actual amount of blue jays is 15. So what they want us to solve for is right here, the sparrows, and we're going to go ahead and make this y, or let's make it m. Okay, so when we cross multiply, we have 3m equals 15 times 5. So 3m equals 15 times 5. Then we divide by 3 and divide by 3. And when we do that, we end up with 25 sparrows. So you should have come up with 25 sparrows. And that's it. That's not a lot of work to that. It's a little, don't confuse it with some of the other stuff we've done. For example, if they could very easily say, we could ask for a ratio. If you had five sparrows and you had 3 blue jays, if the ratio is 5 to 3, and you had 15 blue jays, they might say, what's the ratio of sparrows? What's the percentage of the sparrows, of the birds are sparrows? Well, you'd have to know then that this is 8, and your percentage of sparrows to total birds is 5/8. That's another way. So don't confuse those. I only point that out because it's an entirely different problem. So just do your ratios and your actual and cross multiply and solve for m. All right, there's your problems, 7a and b, 8a and b, and 15. Get those done. Bring me your questions tomorrow in class and we'll talk about them. Thank you.